And this session is called AI and Coding, What's Changing, What's Not, and How to Adapt with Will Myers and Becca Harpain.
And special guest, Zoe.
And Baby Nerd.
Sweet Zoe. Sweet Zoe.
She decided
Becca
to wake
was
up for her
saying-
nap right before we went live.
That's absolutely, like, she can enjoy the talk along with everybody else too.
Oh, well, welcome everyone. Thank you to coming to our presentation. I first want to give a shout out to Raish. I loved her presentation. She was like, yeah, I'm just kind of dabbling in AI. And so I just built 6 different apps to like handle these things.
She's amazing. Wild. That was so inspiring. So I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing, Will.
It was wild. She just built so many different things. But thank you so much for joining. My name is Will Myers. I have a website, will-myers.com, and I'm a Squarespace educator and developer, software engineer. Kind of moving into the software engineer naming because AI does a lot of coding these days. Then I'll let Becca introduce herself, but no introduction needed, I'm sure.
Hi, everybody. I'm Becca Harpain. I run InsideTheSquare.co. I'm also a Squarespace educator, but self-professed Squarespace super nerd. That's definitely my new title. And I love talking to people about all the cool things we can do with Squarespace, but particularly using code to make it just a little bit more unique. I feel like the platform itself has so many awesome things that it does, but when we add a little bit of custom code, it gets even more awesome.
Absolutely. And both of us sort of hit the same wall when using AI to add custom code to our website. We wanted to customize something. We wanted to change something. We wanted to write some CSS. Everyone was talking about how great it is. And when you would go ask Claude, ask ChatGPT, it just didn't give you the right answers. Nothing just seemed to work. And so both of us sort of approached this problem from different angles. And I built a tool called RoboWill. And this is a browser Chrome extension, similar to Raish's that we just saw over there. But you could select different elements and ask it questions because these AIs are actually smart, but you just have to give it the context that it needs to answer your questions. They will very confidently answer things that they have no idea about. And so it'll sound like they're giving you the right answer, but it's not. And Becca approached this same problem, but with GPTs.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a crisis moment when people started using different AI programs to create code. My first thought was, oh my gosh, they're not going to need me anymore. I'm out of a job. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to get one of those normal jobs in like an office or something. How boring. So I very quickly realized after trying to create some code and getting wrong answers, very confident incorrect answers from different GPT models, I realized instead of relying on GPTs to create my code, I needed to make the GPTs rely on me. And that's why I created Custom Cody. I trained these GPTs that we're already using. It's set up on Claude, Anthropic's AI's GPT. It's set up on ChatGPT and on Gemini. And I uploaded all of my information, all of my training, my tutorials, my code database, everything I could to teach these AIs what I knew to try and reduce the amount of incorrect answers and give it the knowledge that I had to create code that would actually work. So it's definitely a different approach, and it's a lot more for brainstorming concepts and working out ideas that are Squarespace specific. None of these AIs were ready to be Squarespace specific, and this one absolutely is.
And I'll give one little shout out to Custom Cody here. What's really nice is that it is a fixed cost. It's not like an ongoing cost, which is really nice.
Yeah, I figure we're already paying for subscriptions to all of these GPT programs to use them anyway. Why add on top of that? So it's $30 lifetime access, and that's all future updates. When Squarespace makes big changes, like the change they did to our product selectors just a couple of months ago, I updated Custom Cody across the board, and we all had the latest and greatest to work with. We're all in this together, and I personally hate subscriptions.
Yeah. Subscription overload. Okay, so we were going to talk about what's changing, what's actually changing, what's not changing in the AI space, and how to adapt. And I don't know if you've been around the internet within the last 3 months, but the world is just exploding with all the changes with AI, everything that's happening, and it can be very daunting trying to keep up with everything. So let's talk about the practical things that are changing. for me, this is something that I am seeing changing in my work. My workflow is changing. There is a maxim or a principle or something in software development or in custom coding that I really like. It's make it work, make it right, make it fast. So those are kind of the 3 steps in my client development, my build process. And that first step is make it work. Just like, doesn't matter. Don't worry about like speed. Don't worry about all these other things down the line. What we're trying to do is get just a prototype up, get a demo up so I can share it with my client. And now we can have a discussion because we can both see it in the physical world. It's not abstract anymore. And that is the phase that has dropped from days down to honestly minutes. You can get these demos up. Now, these are not things you're going to ship. These are not going to be polished by any stretch of the imagination, but you can start having concepts with people or conversations with people about it. And this has been the biggest shift, is days down to weeks. And this is happening for me. And I should also be clear, my work is building plugins, building custom components for people. It's not necessarily full site build. So take my advice for that context here. So it used to be I would jump on, have to write code manually, get it uploaded, sort of think through what it needs to be, take a couple days just to get the proof of concept. And now the demos take minutes to spin up. It's very quick to get a demo up. And I have even started dabbling with sending a demo in my initial scope to the client. Like, here is a demo of what we can do, because it's that fast and you can start to have those conversations earlier. So my workflow is definitely shifting where that front end is not nearly as loaded. Next, tooling. Tooling has changed. I'm sure you've seen a lot of these things, but this last one, the underlying AI models that power all these tools have dramatically improved in the last 3 months. And so if you haven't tried them in a while, any of these tools, give them another shot. Don't base your judgments on how AI works based on something that works six months ago. So there's the AI assistants for Squarespace designers, RoboWill, Custom Cody. I just added Square Savvy in there. Race's Square Savvy, super cool. Then there's the AI app builders. So this is something like Lovable, Replit, Bolt. So these are 3 examples. These are really neat because you can prompt a full website app. Now, again, this probably isn't something you're going to launch. It might not be something you're launching, but it's a great way to get the ideas in your head into the physical world. And now you can share them with people and have conversations. The AI-assisted coding environments, I'm sure you've heard about Cursor or Claude Code or Codex, OpenClaw. And if you haven't heard about it, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. There's a lot of hype behind a lot of these. So it is hard to sort of parse out the noise from reality here, but there's a lot of hype. And then, like I said, the underlying models that power all these AI things, they have improved quite a bit.
All right. So on that note too, I think it's important to really address how the models are developing. Like Will was talking about, using something that worked 6 months ago might not be the best idea to use it now, because they're constantly adapting and learning. That's literally the point of AI. The intelligence is going to continue to adapt as it gets new information. So it's important to stay on top of what the newer models are doing. For the longest time, I was obsessed with just ChatGPT 4. And even when they went up to 5, I said, no, keep using 4. 5 takes too much information. But within a week, it was set. It was faster. It was better. It understood our prompts and our concepts a lot better. So personally, I use Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini. Personally, ChatGPT is my favorite for code, but Claude is starting to win. I think that's going to change within the next week or two. Claude has been making major improvements in the way that it handles and understands code from a designer perspective. It's no longer just using the appropriate terms to get that stuff taken care of. It's understanding layman's terms to get it taken care of. And I think that's important for a lot of us, especially beginning designers who might not understand the back end of a pseudo state for a particular div element. They might just want to say, hey, button hover color change. And it's starting to truly understand that and give us more advanced code. And Will put on here as well, he's using Claude Sonnet and ChatGPT 5.3 Codex, like a boss. Love it, Will.
It goes back and forth. Like, it just depends. I'm like constantly experimenting with with different models just to see what gives me and the best response. I'm on Claude Sonnet right now because it's got some good responses.
Nice. And I think that's an important thing to remember. Keep experimenting with the different models. Now, this is something I wanted to mention on what's changing because I think it's really important to pay attention to, and that is the polarizing views in our society. I think the early adopter phase of AI is over, and not everyone is on board with AI. There are lots of issues around water consumption. A lot of creatives are still really upset about different copyright infringement issues. And I think as a designer, it's our job to be very clear with our clients on our AI use. Some of them might not want that at all. And if they're super against AI, you can still use these models to like develop your skills. You can still ask AI to help you with things. If you have an idea for something and you don't want to use AI generated code for your site, you can still talk through the problem and say, hey, what are some resources I can use to develop the skill to create it? What are some good examples of this particular feature on a website out there? Use it for research, use it for back and forth, use it for intelligence. Now, I recommend Claude. Lovable is great for testing your own code too, and of course, Custom Cody. But with the polarizing views, double check with your clients that using AI is okay. And if they're not on board with it, use AI to develop your own skills and write the code yourself. Totally possible.
All right. Now let's shift into what isn't changing. What are some of the fundamentals?
Sorry. So the fundamentals there, I got distracted by the chat. So people were talking about some of the different recent deal changes with OpenAI and the DoD here in the United States. And it definitely is going to be a hot topic. So I want to make sure we address that. So thanks for mentioning that in the chat. Sorry,
that's such a good point. Yeah, like talking to clients about it because, and again, these things are changing by the week. Like it's so hard. That's what's difficult to keep up. And when things change that fast, conversations. That's the best way to keep up with it. Talk to people.
Yeah. So what's not changing are the fundamentals. And this is very important, especially for Squarespace. There are things that are global elements on a site. Like this example here is just going to change the H2. It's going to make the font size bigger and the color navy, but that's going to affect the H2 on every page. You know what else it's going to affect? Anything that gets the category of H2. A blog post title in Squarespace, technically that's an H1. So if you write a code to change H1, that's going to change every single blog post on a website, not just the heading 1 text types on a landing page. But if you scope the code and make it safe for individual elements in Squarespace, using things like block IDs, collection IDs, even installing your code on an individual page, that's going to be safe. And these are the nuances that we as Squarespace designers need to know. Knowing the fundamentals of coding for Squarespace is a really important thing to keep in mind when you're actually creating code using AI for that specific platform. And also, I had to add this one in here, your unique style matters more than ever. So Squarespace does have Blueprint. That was what they came out with a while back. That was 5 questions to have AI build a website for you. And what it created were these templates that looked like templates. And sure, you could update some photos and change some text, but they're not unique. They don't look interesting. They don't look fascinating. And it's really hard to take that and have it represent your brand unless you're willing to get creative. Now, when we're working with AI, slop is a very common term. I think AI slop is going to be added to the dictionary here pretty soon. So it's our job as designers to make sure that we keep the outcome of the design clear. We keep the design accessible, so important. We keep it functional and we stay creative. Suggesting an idea to AI is a good start, but make sure it's your creative, unique idea. And I really should have underlined and bold the word accessible there. When you're asking for code for a site, AI doesn't understand that accessibility should be a priority in your design. So make sure you include that in a lot of your prompts. Make sure that what you're creating does have high enough contrast, that the font sizes aren't too small. All of those little things that we designers know. But again, your unique style, that matters more than ever right now. AI is going to make slop, and it's up to you to make something special.
Good. And similarly, on that note, garbage in, garbage out with these AIs. If you don't give it a good prompt, if you don't think through it, what you're asking it, it's going to give you a very confidently bad result. And AIs still need context. No matter how intelligent these things get, they still need context. And if you're unfamiliar with that word, context is just additional information that you're giving it. And this can come in the form of like attachments, like a screenshot of what you want something to look like. This can come in the form of a link to some external documents that might help the AI understand how something works. It can come in the form of code that you've copied and pasted from the web inspector if you dare to jump in the web inspector and do it. But these AIs still need context. They still need some additional information to be able to give you a good answer. And what I liken it to, it's like walking into a doctor's office saying, I don't feel good, and expecting the doctor to give you a diagnosis right there. They need more information. But the problem is the AI doctor will tell you what's wrong with you if you just say that. And so it's dangerous to listen to it right out the gate. Lastly, this is like for all of us, this is, I feel this deeply with the code I write because it's under the hood and people don't see it. And if it works on the surface, things can really be getting real bad underneath with the code. And this is something I also think works a lot with just the design process. You build for maintenance, not for the launch. This is something I've always wanted to do, and why I think Squarespace is a great platform, because you can hand it off. Squarespace has great handoff ability. You can give it to a client and they'll understand how to go change some of the things, much to your chagrin often, I'm sure, because they make your beautiful design look bad. But this is very much the case with coding and AI. On the launch day, it might look good, but as you get deeper into it and as time evolves, it can become just what we call spaghetti code. It can become a mess. It's just hard to untangle it. So one of the first things I always ask people is just who on your team is going to be responsible for keeping this updated. And if they don't have an answer to that, sometimes I'll recommend myself. That could be me, but of course that's going to need to be built into the scope. So remember that you are building. AI can get stuff ready for launch. It can look good, but it's not going to be good in the long term. So you need to be thinking about the long-term viability of the things that you're building. All right, now let's move on to the how to adapt section. This is just something I thought of. This is how I experiment with these things. I just block some time, 1 or 2 hours, and I don't commit to anything. I'm just playing around. I'm just trying something. Try one new thing in your workflow. Obviously, Robo will and Custom Cody. But I think Lovable is something that could work with a lot of your workflows, just sort of seeing the capabilities of it, not using it in the sense of like, oh, this is going to be my new platform, but just understanding the capabilities of it. And if you really want to nerd out, jump into Cursor and Claude. That's really fun. I've loved playing around with that. And also, I know a lot of people have concerns about what this is doing to humanity and our planet. And this AI stuff, it's a very big open door right now. So do some research on which models you might be comfortable with in using, or the models you definitely don't want to be using, just to help guide your understanding of how you want to be using these going forward.
Absolutely. And don't forget to add your human touch. How to adapt and moving forward is, again, making sure that you understand what you're working with. If you don't understand how each line of code that AI generates for you actually works, what each line is doing, ask. Ask the AI to explain it. This really ties into Will's comment about spaghetti code and that tangled mess of line after line. If you just copy and paste what an AI gives you and puts it into a website without knowing what it does, when Squarespace does make a change, you might update one line and everything breaks and you've got to go back to the drawing board and end up making more work for yourself in the long run. So thinking about the fundamentals of Squarespace and coding itself, you should definitely understand how each line works before you add it to your site. And again, if you're not sure, just ask. AI is there to help. And you should also make sure that what you're working on improves the site in a meaningful and helpful way. This is something I've started to see trending in our community here is people, they have all the bells and whistles, all the cool things they can do, and they want to put every single interesting idea they have on every single website they build. And it's really detracting from the purpose of the site. And it's not necessarily serving the client or doing what it needs to be done when it comes to actually conveying the message that site content is trying to convey. So make sure before you add code, you always ask, does this actually improve the site in a meaningful and helpful way? And that ties into number 3. Does it solve a real problem? Or does it just look impressive at launch? I think a lot of people can definitely fall into the trap, myself included, of designing for designers and not the client itself. So keep that in mind, even when you have all of these amazing superpowers at your disposal, all of these incredible, cool programs that can create code for you and bring your vision to life, make sure it really does solve a problem. Make sure it's meaningful and it's helpful, and make sure you understand how it works.
Can I just stop you there?
Yeah.
Because I just think that was like one of the most helpful things for me. Because, I'm not, I always talk about it. I'm not super codey. But I think that is it with the spaghetti. If you're putting stuff in there and then something doesn't go wrong, normally, like I said, I've got Dave on speed dial and Will, sometimes you as well. And I'll call you and I'll be like, I don't understand why something's gone wrong. And you'll be able to look at something and you just can see it's because this isn't here, or the line is the wrong way, or whatever, and try this. And I think if when you are starting to add code, if you can learn some of the fundamentals and the basics, you can, before you put it in, to understand it a little bit more rather than just plopping it in. Because if you have got hundreds of bits of code because you didn't need them all, by the way, I worked on a site recently, and it was a brand designer who'd worked on it and used somebody very cheaply, a developer who had never used Squarespace, and put all this code in, and it was everything that could already be natively done in Squarespace. So we actually deleted all of the code and just redesigned it with no code, and it did exactly the same job as before. But obviously it won't be, you can do all the extra nice things with your code. But I just wanted to say that I really appreciated this slide.
Yeah, and that's such great perspective, Liz. I think, again, it's so important to remember that our expertise is what makes us great designers. Knowing that the platform can do something without an added code for it, that's a skill that we need to retain. So don't just go to AI for all the fancy things. Rely on the basics first. Keep those fundamentals in mind.
That's absolutely always my first recommendation is don't use code. Like if you cannot use code, don't. Like Squarespace handles a lot of things. You want to let them handle it. And if you can get away with not using code, don't use it. That's wonderful. And then lastly, of course, AI, not of course, because I think a lot of people feel like this is going to replace a lot of us. I know I feel this often, but it's not necessarily replacing people who can't code. It's giving you a superpower if you know how to use it and want to wield it. But I totally and fully understand everyone's hesitation around it as well. It's wild times we're living in. So let's jump into. Oh, I'll also mention we both have little discounts. If you want, you can see them on the screen here. But let's jump into some questions.
Yeah, actually, right out of the gate, one of the last comments we got here was from Helene. Sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly there, but she wrote that it's hard to get excited about AI as a web dev sometimes when you have creatives in your circle of friends who lose their jobs because AI exists. And I totally agree. It's a wild time to be a part of this industry where AI is affecting so many different jobs. And that definitely resonates with me because of the extreme fear that I had when people started using AI for coding. I actually have a mini series of shorts on my YouTube channel that are buried in there for the last couple of years, where I actually did a chat GPT versus me, where I asked it a Squarespace question. It gave me the wrong code answer and I explained why it was wrong. And that was definitely built out of fear right there. But that helped me realize flipping the script was important. If AI was going to try to replace me, how could I make it rely on me? And my answer, I figured that one out. Yours is going to be unique to you. So definitely think about that from a different perspective, is how can we make these tools rely on our skills so they don't replace us?
Right. So here's a question from Barbara. Do you recommend that designers getting their feet wet with code be familiar with HTML and CSS basics first? Honestly, I don't like any gatekeeping in terms of whether what you should do. If you feel interested in getting your feet wet with code, just jump in. I wouldn't say, oh, I need to learn HTML and CSS. That is going to be a skill you will develop as you stay in the coding world, and you will need to develop. But I wouldn't put that as a prerequisite to, okay, now I need to learn HTML, I need to learn CSS before I start dabbling in the coding world. Find something fun. Find a customization you want to build and just try to find a way to build it. That's the best way to get going.
I think this is a great time to mention that what we're talking about are code languages. And, the best way to learn a new language, total immersion. You can learn a new language through flashcards, through beginner basics, but total immersion is what does it. So if you find a cool thing that you want to learn how to create with code, understand how that code works, break it down line by line, understand the digital sentence structure, if you will. Learning that way is how I adapted to code. I never went to college, never learned any, well, I did for 3 months and rode away on the back of a motorcycle, kind of a long story. but you don't have all
That'll
the
be enough for
expertise there.
presentation. I want to hear that.
Yeah, it's a good one. But you don't have to have all of that massive amount of training anymore. The passion is what's going to get you there. So find a code you want to recreate, dig into it, explore it, and you'll learn the basics that you need to understand to develop even more. I think total immersion is definitely the way to do it.
Yeah, Luca, I learned the basics of code once and broke my site with the use of AI. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
can happen for sure.
I would recommend maybe not playing around with it on like your live site. Spin up a demo one. I do love this that Squarespace gives us like 6 months if you're in the Circle program, 6 months of a free website and demo on there. You can, Luca, I like the gumption of playing around with AI code just right on the live site. I mean, that.
Yep.
I will say that is the quickest way to learn is break something in production and you'll learn it real fast.
Absolutely.
Can I just say, because I was reading the comments, did you read, because all of your info is in the speaker page, but I'm just wondering if you want to stop sharing screen.
Oh, sure.
Like you've got a couple more minutes left of your half an hour. I know we're running over anyway, and people have less of a break. In the UK, it's more like dinner time. So Will, where you're in New York, I know this.
Yeah.
Because I see you at Circle Day. You live near Christine, which is Washington.
Yeah.
Washington?
Nailed it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, up just north of Portland, Oregon. So we live in a town called Vancouver, but just north of Portland, out here in the Pacific Northwest, where it is gray and rainy and perfectly Pacific Northwesterny right now.
And so what time is that? Because I'm a bit rubbish if it's like.
Yeah, it's almost 10 a.m. just after. Yeah, it's almost 10 a.m. right now.
And you're on the same time, Will?
Yeah, we're at 1. We're at 1 p.m. here in New York.
Okay. Yeah, what else was I going to say? So that was just so interesting. I really love having both of you on here. Your talk was great. And I just wanted to say a big thank you as well for teaming up together, because I know it's not hard, when you've got to do a presentation and then do it together and sort of say, what do we want to talk about? So I know you probably will have had Zoom calls and stuff, which is extra work. And
I've got to give a shout out to Will on this one. We had a great Zoom call. It was my first meeting coming back from maternity leave here, but he put together this presentation for us. So yesterday I sent him that Parks and Rec gif of like Leslie Knope being all the credits on the screen. I'm like, this is Will Myers, produced by Will Myers. Shout out to Will. He's a champion and I'm lucky to have him as a friend.
No, you're an amazing presenter just in all around. I mean, I had full confidence anything I threw up on there, you'd make interesting and make it sound good. So this is a fun partnership.
Yeah, it's been really. I've loved having you guys as a little duo on today, and I don't know if there's any more questions before we close out this talk.
No, but thank you so much for having us. And
Mom and Dad of
Code.
I love it.
That's funny.
I love that too.
Tabitha, I hope she finally fell asleep. Back to nap time. Here we go.
Yeah. Sweet thing. Yeah. real champ. Is always just a real champ, coming in, presenting.
Mm-hmm. Ready to nerd it out. I love it.
Ready to nerd it out. Well, thank y'all. Thank y'all for having us. Let us know. I mean, we're both pretty open, so let us know if you have any questions on Instagram or our websites or whatever.
Hit us up anytime. hello@insidethesquare.co. I'm back in my email and kind of amazed how much work I can get done on my phone when I'm nap trapped under this little one. I have been like the my inbox lately. Kind of proud of it. So feel free to reach out with any questions. I got a ton of resources out there, and so does Will. His blog is amazing. So definitely dig into that if you need inspiration.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much.